evening, everyone. This is Group 1, and we will present Articles 14 to 20 of the Revised Penal Code. The style of our report would be mock trial. But before anything else, for disclaimer purposes, this group do not claim that the facts, the persons of the mock trial is real, and that the legal proceedings and judicial proceedings of the mock trial is not exact and correct in the proper legal proceedings. The subject of our mock trial would be rape, and all articles involved in this report is compressed and will be discussed from the mock trial. However, for more substantial context, our handouts will be available. For the title and the roles in this mock trial, we have the victim as a fictional character. The judge is myself, and the appellant accused would be Joshua Malyare, Kurt Gutierrez, Kaylin Ridike, and one fictional character. The defense would be Jaisel Ortiz and Nicole Pagao. For the prosecution, we have Hazel Poblete and Trixie Lanyohan.
Joshua Malyare, 21 years old, had been admiring Rose Salvador, 19 years old, ever since they were students at Tanay National High School. Despite Joshua's pervasiveness and persistence to court Rose never acceded to any of Joshua's displays of affection. It was known all around their barrio that Joshua had an attraction to Rose, since Joshua would sometimes discreetly follow Rose all around town. On one fateful day, September 9, Rose caught him stalking her at the palenque, making her ask for the Tanod's help in getting safely away from Joshua, as it was to her opinion that this demeanor was strange and suspicious. Joshua, feeling publicly embarrassed, found himself filled with rage. On September 12, 1999, Joshua Malyare, known to be a habitual drinker, asked Kurt Gutierrez, his longtime friend, to get together with him and drink at his house. On this gruesome day, a crime of rape happened. Assailed in the Regional Trial Court of Tanay Rizal is a criminal case against Joshua, alleging that he, along with his fellow accused, raped and seriously injured the victim, Rose Salvador. The Honorable Regional Trial Court of Tanay Rizal, with Honorable Judge Benedict Rosadino, is now in session. All rise. Silence is hereby ordered by the presiding judge.
The court is now in session. Let it be known to the accused what accusations is hereby presented in this court against them.
People versus Joshua Malyare. Joshua Malyare with his co-defendants Kurt Gutierrez, Kaylin Riodique, and Roberto Cruz as accomplices is hereby accused of the crime of rape, punishable by Republic Act 8353 and Article 335 of the Revised Penal Code, and serious physical injuries, punished by Article 263 of the same code.
How do you plead?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
The prosecution may now introduce their contention.
The accused, Joshua Malyare, acting as principal with his co-defendants Kurt Gutierrez, Kaylin Riodique, and Roberto Cruz as accomplices, committed a crime of rape punishable by Republic Act 8353 and Article 335 of the Revised Penal Code, and serious physical injuries punished by Article 263 of the same code, committed as follows. That on September 12, 1999, around 3 o'clock in the morning, 19-year-old Rose Salvador was sound asleep inside one of the rooms of their house located at Barangay Cuyambay, Tanay Rizal, when she was suddenly awakened by a heavy weight pressing on her body and found appellant Joshua Malyare on top of her. Looking around the room, she also saw two figures standing at her left and right corner, alleging that these were Kurt Gutierrez, her former schoolmate, and co-defendant Roberto Cruz, who was holding a knife in his left hand. Rose Salvador noticed that she was naked from the waist down. Appellant continuously pinned down Rose Salvador's body with his own. She struggled to free herself from appellant, but when Kurt and Roberto Cruz, co-defendants, came to aid Joshua to successfully pin her down, her efforts proved futile.
Appellants held both hands of Rose Salvador with Roberto Cruz holding a knife with his left hand. Joshua then forced Rose Salvador's leg support and inserted his penis into her vagina. Rose Aurelia felt pain. She also felt some warm matter enter her vagina. Appellant remained on top of Rose Salvador, and after a few minutes, she again felt the same substance enter her vagina. With a knife pointed at her, Rose was powerless. Appellant warned her not to make a noise, and frightened, Rose just kept silent. Each of the three appellants took rounds in raping the victim, employing the same manner while also violently striking the victim in different parts of her body. At around 5 o'clock in the morning, the assailant successfully left the scene of the crime using the back door of the house. Around 9 o'clock in the morning of that same day, Rose Salvador, bruised and bloody, reported to her sister, Evelyn Salvador, what happened to her. As Rose was severely injured from the incident that just happened, they immediately went to Tanay General Hospital. Thereafter, Evelyn called the authorities who then went to the said hospital to gather the sworn statement of the victim. Prosecution asked this court to present Exhibit A, which provides primary evidence containing the medical legal of the victim.
Does the defense find Exhibit A false and inadmissible to this court?
No, Your Honor.
Therefore, the prosecution may continue.
Later, or around 3:30 in the afternoon, Rose Salvador was examined by Dr. Lynette D. Valencirina, whose findings are contained in the medical legal certificate dated September 15, 1999, which she issued. Hymenal laceration at 3, 6, and 9 o'clock position, foreign hard object inserted with force causing bruising at the cervix, several contusions on the left and right arm, severe bruises on the upper left thigh, ligature mark around the neck, 13 lacerations all over the body, contusion on the head.
Witness in this case is present. A statement from a witness living near the residence of the victim's house states that on that day that the crime took place, she was sitting outside of her home when she suddenly saw three men escape the back door of Rose Salvador's home. This witness also states that the housekeeper, Kylin Reyadique, was handed cash by one of the three men.
We would like to call Trixie Lanyohan to the stand. Can you tell us what you saw at 5 o'clock in the morning on September 12, 1999, outside your home in Barangay Cuyambay, Rizal?
Nagwawalis po ako noon when I saw Kylene, yung kasambahay po nila Rose, sa labas ng bahay nila. Wala naman po akong napansin na bago since lagi naman po siyang gising ng ganong oras na yun. Pero nagtataka po ako kasi nakatayo lang po siya sa labas ng pinto na parang hindi mapakali. Maya-maya po, nagulat na lang po ako na may lumabas na 3 lalaki sa labas ng bahay nila Rose. Tapos parang may inabot po kay Kylene. Matapos po noon, nagmamadali na po silang umalis at pumasok na rin po sa loob ng bahay nila si Kylene.
From the foregoing, the prosecution pleads that Defendant Joshua Malyare, acting as principal, should be liable for the aggravating circumstance of premeditation, as seen from the evident intent of Joshua Malyare to cause harm on the person of Rose, based on the events that transpired on September 9, the public humiliation of Mr. Malyare, which followed the commission of the crime 4 days after. The alternative aggravating circumstance of intoxication, as Malyare is a habitual drinker and the commission of the crime was subsequent to his act of drinking, showing his intent to suppress his remorse to further his malicious plans. Defendant Kurt Gutierrez, as accomplice, should be liable for the alternative aggravating circumstance of intoxication. Co-defendant Kylene Reyadique, as accomplice, should be liable under Article 14, Part 11, as Kylene acted as an accomplice when she received a prize in consideration of committing a crime, acting as a lookout for the assailants. The aggravating circumstance of obvious ungratefulness shall also be imposed upon her. The following aggravating circumstance shall apply to all defendants. The aggravating circumstance of dwelling as a crime was committed in the home of the accused, thereby evidently violating the sanctity of the victim's abode. The aggravating circumstance of nighttime, the crime was committed at 3 a.m. Ignominy, cruelty, and aid of armed men, all punishable under Article 14 of the Revised Penal Code. All these are stated in the affidavit.
The defense may now present their case and their witness on the stand.
Calling Defendant Joshua Malyare on the stand. Is it true that you had been admiring the victim ever since you were in high school?
Yes, I admire the victim. When we were in high school, but I can't say the same now. I have a girlfriend and mag-isang taon na rin po kami.
Then, can you explain what happened on September 12, 1999 at the Nice local market when a barangay tanod apprehended you for allegedly stalking the victim, Rose Salvador?
Sa totoo lang ho, hindi ko rin alam bakit niya isipin yun. Naglalakad lang naman ako, tas nagulat na lang po ako. Bigla ako nilapitan at sinisita ng tanod. Napalapit lang naman po ako ng bahagya.
I see. Why would you think that she would think that you are stalking her?
Siguro po dahil alam niya na may gusto ako sa kanya dati. At madalas rin po kasi kami nagkakatagpo sa isang lugar. Nakatira rin po kasi ako malapit doon.
Where were you on September 12, 1999?
Nagtatrabaho po ako noon. Night shift po kasi ako sa McDo.
By any chance, did you meet with your co-defendant to grab some drinks according to the statement of the prosecution?
No po, I was working.
Thank you, Joshua. Calling defendant Kurt Gutierrez. Would you say that you are habitual drinker, Kurt?
Po. I rarely drink. I only drink whenever there are occasions po at kapag may time po ako.
Then, can you explain what you were doing on the day of September 11, 1999 at 7 o'clock at night?
Nalakad po ako sa kalsada sa amin nung ayain po ako ni Joshua na uminom kasama siya. Papunta po yata siya sa trabaho nun. Hindi po sana ako papayag pero nahiya na rin po ako. Kasi po matagal na po kami magkaibigan at wala siyang kasama. Tapos may utang pa po ako sa kanya.
Thank you, Kurt. Calling defendant Kailin Riodique. Kailin, what is your relationship with Rose?
Kasambahay po nila ako, ma'am.
To some extent, may sama ka ba ng loob sa amo mo?
Wala naman po.
What were you doing on the night of this incident?
Gabi po na yon, natutulog po ako, ma'am, dahil mahaba po ang naging araw ko.
Can you explain why a witness, your neighbor, saw you outside the victim's house at 5 o'clock in the morning on the day that she was raped?
Ganong oras po kasi ako nagsisimulang magwalis, ma'am.
Nothing further, Your Honor. Witness may rest. As clearly shown by the statements of the defendants, they had nothing to do with the crime committed against the victim. Joshua Malyare was at his workplace, therefore the crime of rape cannot have occurred when he was not at the scene where it took place. Neither can the alternative aggravating circumstance be applied to co-defendant Kurt, as he is not habitual drinker and intoxication was not availed of subsequent to plan to commit a crime. Kailin in this case did not show obvious ungratefulness, as there is no showing that the same had transpired. We humbly pray that this honorable court does not consider the circumstances.
After due consideration, this court has decided. This court finds Joshua Malyare, acting as principal of the crime, is liable for rape and serious physical injury with the following aggravating circumstances of premeditation, as seen from the evident intent of Joshua Malyare to cause harm on the person of Rose Salvador, based on the events that transpired on September 9, that followed the commission of the crime 4 days after. Alternative aggravating circumstance of intoxication, as Malyare is an habitual drinker, and the commission of the crime was subsequent to his act of drinking, showing his intent to suppress his remorse to further his malicious plans. Kurt Gutierrez and Roberto Cruz are also found guilty with the same crime and liability as the accomplice for the crime of rape. However, on the grounds of alternative aggravating circumstances of intoxication, that Kurt Gutierrez is an habitual drunkard, this court finds that the contention is inadmissible because it was not alleged in the preliminary proceedings in this case. Kailin Riodique is also found guilty as an accomplice for the crime of rape. The prosecution is correct and has proved that under Article 14, Paragraph 11 of the Revised Penal Code, Kailin acted as an accomplice when she received a prize in consideration of committing a crime where she acted as a lookout for the assailants. It was also found out that Kailin Riodique also participated in the crime of rape. She was the last one to rape Rose Salvador. Obvious ungratefulness has also been correctly invoked by the prosecution. This court finds that Kaylin, as a part of the household and as a maid, where Rose Salvador is dwelling, is an aggravating circumstance as an accomplice for the crime of rape. These following aggravating circumstances applies to all assailants. Paragraph 3 of Article 14 of the Revised Penal Code, the aggravating circumstance of dwelling, as the crime was committed in the home of the accused, thereby evidently violating the sanctity of the victim's abode. Second, paragraph 6 of the same article, the same code, the aggravating circumstance of nighttime, because the crime was committed at 3 a.m. in the morning. Third, paragraph 17 of the same article, the same code, ignominy, as these assailants took turns of raping the victim. Lastly, paragraph 8 on the same article with the same code, the aid of armed men, because it was found that Roberto Cruz was armed in the commission of the crime of rape. As stated in People versus Luis Cruz, several aggravating circumstances against the appellant will increase the penalty in its maximum period. The prosecution is fully justified in recommending the imposition of the penalty in its maximum degree, as numerous aggravating circumstances were present and proven in this court. This court affirms the contention of the prosecution. Therefore, under Republic Act 8353, Article 335 of the Revised Penal Code, and Article 263 of the same code, appellant Joshua Malyare as the principal of the crime, Kurt Gutierrez, Roberto Cruz, and Kaylin Riudique as an accomplice, is hereby sentenced to 40 years of imprisonment under reclusion perpetua in its maximum period, with cause against appellant. So ordered.